care. Thank you so much for being with me and being agreed to be featured by Comprehensive Therapy Services as our amazing, amazing person that we often refer to. So can you tell anyone listening who you are, what you do, as if we could, put it into a little nutshell? There's so
Yeah,
many
let's nutshell that. So probably most people know me for birth education, because that's my main focus, is empowering humans with education about their bodies so they're not scared to birth their babies and they're not scared to bake their babies, because there's so much unknown that we sit in our trauma and let someone else take the lead instead of owning that actually we are a conscious being with choice, and this process is happening through us but not to us. Yeah. So that's my main focus, is birth education with hypnobirthing, with newborn care, breastfeeding, all that kind of stuff. But my background is in erotic blueprint coaching, understanding your body and how the sexuality plays a piece. And also the hypnosis part is way more about what we say to ourselves and how we interrupt our patterns on a conscious and subconscious level, literally helps us release our babies. And we're baking a human being. So what we're putting in actually matters to help form their personality, which nobody talks about. So the connection piece is probably releasing fear, and connection is my specialty. So it's different than regular birth education. It's typical Lamaze, your stuff that you're going to get from the hospital classes. It's a deep dive into how do we connect with these humans and release our trauma and our fear so that we can have a gorgeous birth experience, which comes right into how do we protect our pelvic floor area and get that support long before we actually need it. All the things vulva is what I do. Vagina and vulva, two separate things, but all encompassing. So
yes. Yeah. I just got chills like 3 separate times when you were talking. So I think that, something that we were just talking about before we hit record was, how do we prepare and really set ourselves up for success with ongoing, support throughout this process, both with your education, which is now available online, which is amazing. But also, psychological help, also physical therapy like us, how do we really set up before 39 weeks success for birth?
Oh my gosh, 39 weeks. Like, I want you before you even conceive. Like, I would love for you at that point where you're like, everything's tight, nothing's working. So they're coming from you to let's get you educated on how to set yourself up for support, because the postpartum time is lifetime. The birth, labor, and pregnancy stuff is literally 10 months. It's a transition phase into the rest of your humanness of how to parent this baby. And I want you when you pee on a stick. So my first class is, oh my God, I'm pregnant. What do I do with that? And that's simple steps to set yourself up for, how do I connect during this pregnancy? How do I understand how my body works? And I just finished up a hypnobirthing series this week. We teach hypnobirthing totally different than normal hypnobirthing, where you think I'm going into a trance and I will have a pain-free birth, which is bullshit. But it can happen. It totally can happen. However, once you dismantle all the unknowns about labor, birth, your pelvic floor, how your baby moves through, how you have trust and confidence that they actually fit through your body, because they do, because evolutionary, we would not be on the planet if it hadn't worked at some point, like forever. It's always worked. This class that I just finished up, at the end of class, we kind of go over, okay, you came in with all these fears. What tools have you left with? And it's always so validating to hear every couple go, I am ready. I'm excited. I have tools. I understand how my body works. I'm a visual person. Looking at those animations, I now see how my baby rotates and comes through, and how I am in charge of the pushing phase, which, man, does that relate back to the comprehensive therapy. You can be in control of how your body works during that pushing phase and do not have to listen to staff coach you through it. Understanding that your body physically and emotionally knows how to do it, your baby knows where they are in relation to your pelvis. Like they're the ones coming out. All you're doing is facilitating their process.
Mm-hmm.
This is not your birth. It's actually your baby's birth. You had one with your parent.
Mm-hmm.
Hope it worked well. Mine was full of trauma, which is probably why I do birth work. But your body has a natural expulsive reflex. And just because you are 10 centimeters, which means your cervix has opened up fully to allow your baby to come through, your uterus is now rotating that baby through with 8 cardinal movements to facilitate the kick-in response that your body is naturally equipped with to release your baby. So if you start pushing at 10 centimeters, when you don't feel a urge to push at 10 centimeters, you're literally pushing on a tight pelvis and a tight uterus because they're trying to rotate your baby. It's trying to rotate your baby. But just because you're 10 centimeters, you start pushing, you exhaust yourself, you exhaust your baby. And now we may have to use instruments to pull your baby out, a vacuum, forceps in rare cases, or we just go straight to a cesarean.
Mm-hmm.
Unfreaking necessary. You haven't even facilitated whether or not you should be upright or sideways or whatever. You might be sitting and your tailbone is right in the way, 30% smaller place to push your baby out. Doesn't have to be that way because you can facilitate, oh, I feel this and here's my urge, or I don't have the urge, I'm going to stand up and go pee and come back.
Yeah.
Or if you've had the epidural, turn the epidural off at 10 centimeters and allow your baby to move, facilitate down, rotate, and then you'll feel the urge to push in the way you want to push. That coach pushing, man, I get a lot of pushback, but there are ways to facilitate a human's own responses. It just works better. It doesn't tear things up and move the bladder into places it shouldn't and do some rectal damage that it doesn't need to do. So you learn that in classes. You learn that in the right classes. You should interview different educators to see how they teach things. It's not typical hospital education.
Yeah. And I
That's
will
not
say,
my favorite.
the people who have come through your hypnobirthing classes or any of the classes that you've facilitated that I've worked with are so empowered and so just standing in their power, standing in their understanding of their own intuition, right? And
so important.
Understanding the wisdom of their body and really trusting that they can do it and that they can advocate for themselves, or they have someone with them on their team to advocate for them, right?
Consent is such a huge piece.
Huge.
We're so disempowered when we come into the system because no one has told us that actually our bodies are pretty smart. Like you got pregnant, whether that was facilitated with fertility help or not, you've grown the baby the whole freaking time. 9 months, like there was no schedule. No one was like, hey, has your baby developed those eyelashes yet? We might need to help with that. No, like feel how empowered you already are. Like your body knows how to grow this baby. This baby is like, hey, thanks. I'm appreciating what you're feeding me. I don't like that, but I do like this, like, there's so much power within your system already. It knows how to birth a baby. And I think we actually just created a t-shirt that says, seriously, you will not stay pregnant forever. You just won't. Like
that's a good reminder.
It's common sense.
At 39 and a half weeks.
Every human has birthed a baby. And when people say, but your risk of miscarriage doubles after 42 weeks. Do you know what doubling means? Like we hear 50%. Yeah, it's 50%, but the number is 1 to 2 out of 1,000 births or out of 10,000 births. It's not half the population dies.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
Body will release this baby when your baby says, okay, I'm good. I've been baked long enough. Like if we need to prompt, there are other things we can do to prompt and own that part of the medical system. It doesn't have to be a full. I had one birthing parent tell me, okay, we know we're going to have to be induced because, we're nearing 40 weeks. And I went, okay, you're nearing 40 weeks. So let's talk about the induction conversation. And she said, we want to do it low and slow. So we asked the doctor, what's the information you have on Cervidil versus Cytotec? No, we don't use Cervidil. It doesn't work. It takes too long and it's expensive. And she said, so we ask, well, but isn't my insurance paying for it? And isn't my insurance paying for my entire hospital stay? So we would like to do Cervidil. Well, then sometimes we have to do two things. We don't do that. We do Cytotec. And she said, okay, but isn't Cytotec not FDA approved for women? Doesn't it say that actually on the label? Because it can harm me and my baby. And the doctor was not happy that she had all the information. And the doctor said, well, this is how we do it. And she said, okay, well, then I would like to talk to a doctor who will do it the way I feel is safest for myself and my baby. I don't know what ended up happening with that particular doctor, but she did the low and slow method and also didn't do it at 40 weeks when everybody wanted her to. She waited for an extra week. And, you know, it was just, it's like just having the conversation allowed her to feel more empowered to go, but for my baby, I am not a number in the system. I would like to facilitate something that might work better for us and allow my body to kind of kick into the natural process, because there was a medical reason for the induction. It didn't have to be rushed, and it could be low and slow, which means there's less pelvic floor damage, which means there's less medication possibly to the baby and the parent. So just understanding that you have options keeps you feeling empowered, because sometimes we need to use induction. We need to have a cesarean, but it doesn't have to be unconnected. It can still be a choice experience instead of a dictatorship. Because at the end of the day, you're freaking paying the bill. You are the consumer.
And it's your body too, which is perhaps the most important part.
And it's your body. Yeah. And when you hear, we're checking you today, so take your clothes off. Wait a second. You didn't ask me. You said you're checking me. You're going to put your physical hand into my body and you didn't even ask for consent. Not okay. You know, here's your gown. Take your clothes off. We'll be in a minute. That, like, I stopped my F word. Did you see me do that? No, that is not how you ask permission. I do not feel safe with a provider like that. I want to have a conversation about that.
Right.
You know,
enthusiastic consent at every step.
And when you've had a provider that says, are you okay with me touching you? No, I'm not. Okay. Well, you let me know when that takes place, or if you're comfortable with that. Then I'm way more open to allow you to come into my body. Right. Those conversations just need to take place earlier rather than later. You don't need to start having cervical checks at your 36-week appointment. What that does is tells you at that moment at 36 weeks what your cervix is doing. So freaking what? It should be tight and clear in the back of your baby's body, because 36 weeks is too early to have a baby. Nothing should be happening. So no one needs to go check that. Check me at 41 weeks if I want that, because that's closer to the time when the baby should be coming, because average is 41 weeks and 3 days. Why are we checking every single week? Because we're preparing you for an induction process. We're preparing you to not trust your body. We're preparing you to know that I know better than you do. That's
medical
not true.
gaslighting.
Absolutely. And it's not even the doctor's fault. It's how we've trained them in medical school. You know, it's how we've trained midwives in medical school, midwifery school, right? It's a different conversation with home birth midwives than it is with hospital midwives, just because of the system, you know. And I'm not putting them all in one package, because there's always different providers. We have doctors that are like, I don't need to check you. You're good. Right. See you when you have a baby. But we as humans need to take more consent training, I think, and understand that our medical care does not have to be a dictatorship. It's a conversation, and it's ownership, and it can be comfortable and non-trauma inducing, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I think there's so much trauma that comes secondary to birth. And a lot of it because of this, either non-consent or feeling like, you know, that fear kicks in, and that dictatorship of the, you know, the hospital personnel in charge is just telling you what's happening. You're not presented information. You're not presented options. You're told, this is an emergency. You're in danger. We know best. Shut up and do what we tell you to. Right. And how scary is that? I just,
you censored your F word too.
We're birds of a feather. So, you know, that's scary. That's really scary it's like basically putting a blindfold on you and then shoving you in a car and you don't know where you're going, right?
Well, and I've made the mistake of, I have a handicapped daughter. And so when I feed her at night, I'll like watch. That's the only time I actually take time to watch Netflix when everyone's like, I'm binge watching, whatever. And I've been watching like the Medicis and these old English, French families in the, like the 1500s, like kingdom, like
Mhm.
series. For some reason that those period pieces have been attractive to me. And every time there's childbirth, my whole body like gets this visceral response because they're on their backs, because this is French technology, right? On their backs in that lithotomy position. And it's a terrifying, horrible, bloody, everyone's going to die. And I'm like, this is our history in the white European culture that we've brought over and set
Mhm.
up in America, right? Which is not the history all over the world, where they have these
Right.
beautiful traditions of understanding that the baby is a spiritual being and they're bringing gifts and all the kind of things. But we've set up our medical experience. And I'm watching these French doctors, which were the leads in obstetric technology and advancement, and they were very proud of it. We will deliver, we will rescue, the midwives are witches, all those things with our innate knowledge has been squashed for so long
Yeah.
that we now are so excited to have a baby. And so the first thing we do is we go on Pinterest and plan our nursery instead of going, what kind of gift is this baby coming? Am I prepared to be a good parent? Am I going to repeat what my mom and dad did to me? How am I going to do this? What if you're a single mom? I'm a single mom. How am I
Mhm.
going to build a village of support? What kind of education do I need to nurture this human being through the pregnancy?
Yeah.
We don't do that. We look at the outside stuff. We look at the how is the gender reveal going to go? And where can I get my sonograms every single week? Please don't do that, by the way. There's way more technology to say don't do sonograms every week, buy packages. They hate me when I say that, but I'm like, no, I'm seriously, like low scans, folks. Um, we can connect with our babies on a very spiritual and deep level because they are part of our journey. They are
Mhm.
coming to be, and I've noticed this over the last 12 years as I've taught. 12 years ago, the parents would come into class going, this kid's going to be an attorney. This kid's going to be a lawyer or a doctor. This kid is going to be a leading scientist because we are. And now parents come in and they go, I don't know what they're going to do. What if they're an artist? What if they have a more conscious level of, I wanted to be this, and my parents had expectations of me. I didn't
Mm.
want to be a therapist, but I was pushed into that because my dad was a psychologist or psychiatrist. I want to see what this child brings.
Mhm.
Nurturing a human being and their potential and their own personality is a totally different path than 12 years ago. And I'm so excited for people to let that evolve
Right.
instead of being stuck on, we have no choice. This is what we're doing. This is how you'll make money. And I'm like, or you'll have a lot of debt, is what you'll have. Like, are you gifting that to them? Like, the world is changing now, and it's
Mhm.
okay to get education. It's okay to understand that we are autonomous human beings with choice, and we are not a number in a system. And our bodies are phenomenal in how they work. And that we were in
Mhm.
the egg that was in the egg that was in the egg all the way back. We have this innate wisdom. We would not be here if our forefathers did not birth babies through their pelvis.
Right.
We wouldn't.
Right.
And even if your mom and your grandma had cesareans, that's a surgery. It doesn't mean it's inherited. Oh, my grandma was a cesarean. My mom was. So, see, we just don't birth babies. If it was an arm surgery, would you say, well, my grandma had arm surgery, my mom had an arm surgery, so I will too? It's not inherited.
Right.
We don't know the circumstances from grandma's. We don't know what was going on in her town. Like if she was from Brazil, we do, because that's what they do, right? It does not mean it's genetically imposed.
Mhm.
And it's okay to have a baby come out of your body, however you want it to come out of your body. It can still be a conscious, beautiful, um, non-traumatic experience.
Mm.
And
Thank
there
you for
are
that
people who,
permission too, because I think
absolutely,
it's so individual, and just allowing people to say, you're in control, you're the expert here, and whatever you choose to do, you can make it as beautiful as you want to make it. Um,
yeah.
and I think having people like you in your corner um, are ways that you support yourself towards that vision and hold yourself true to your values during this birth process.
Oh, there's so many good providers in our town anyway. In San Diego, we have
Mhm.
fantastic providers. You don't have to be with a crappy group.
No.
You just don't. Well, that's what
No.
my insurance pays for. I'm like, so we can find somebody else. And you can always say no.
Right.
Like you
Right.
don't even, you no is a complete sentence. You don't even have to explain your choice. If you had cancer, you would get 3 different opinions before you would let someone lop off your arm.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it different for maternity care? Well,
Mm.
they know best. Ask a question. They're still a human being. Just that white coat stuff doesn't fly with me. I grew up loving hospitals and trusting the medical facilities. I don't have any problems with hospitals. I feel very safe in them, but I also ask questions. And I
Right.
also decide for myself, that's not going to work for me, but I'm going to see what alternate methods there are to support what I want. And when I need medical Western stuff, because I've had a lot of different issues with my body over the years, I still ask questions. And I am
Mm-hmm.
confident in I know my body best. You know your body best. We're not a number. And the reason we make policies and procedures is to lump things in so that the hospital doesn't have a lot of litigation. It's a business
Mm.
practice. I totally get it. I have to do that with my business. Like, this is how I treat everybody. However, I also know you're an individual family. And if you need something else, I'm going to refer you out and I'm going to help you.
Right.
But I'm not a multi-billion-dollar industry that has to protect the masses. And
Mm.
so, and the way we've set up our obstetric practices is these are my high risk folks. They're cesarean. Okay, we've got them
Mhm.
lumped in. Okay, these are the ones that are borderline. I can get them into inductions. Great, that'll be better for my practice for rotation. These natural birthers, oh God, how am I going to get them into one of these other categories, right?
They don't fit.
They don't fit because they go when they want, they do their thing, and it's like, but I know how to fix things if I manage it. But birth doesn't have to be managed. It's a natural
Mm-hmm.
process. We don't
Mm-hmm.
induce our dogs and our cats and our goldfish. We like mammals know how to do their bodies, and cows know how to facilitate a good birth, and
Yeah.
monkeys and giraffes. We are the same way, but we have 1,500,000 years of proof that our bodies work, and then 500 years of let's manage it because it works better for my glory.
Mm. Mm.
Ugh. Ugh.
Oh, Kara, I could talk to you all day long. Everything you say, I'm just so in line with. I'm so happy to have you. And if people who are watching want to connect with you, want to learn more about what you're offering, even if they're not in San Diego, can you tell us a little bit more about how to get in touch with you and some of the ways you're supporting birthing parents right now?
Yeah, so thanks to the pandemic, we are way more visual online. We have a YouTube channel, birtheducationcenter.com. We have Pinterest account. We have Instagram. We have a Teachable account. It's Birth Education Online. We've got a free how to avoid an unnecessary cesarean class. It's an hour long that is really good. It was my gift back to the birth community. I don't charge for that. We have a free downloadable birth plan preference sheet and a little mini class on that that's free. Why your baby would need chiropractic, that's free. We have a lot of free education on our teaching, get through it through our website or our Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a new class called Oh My God, I'm Pregnant, which is a good gift for anyone that that is peeing on a stick that's excited. And yeah, and you can DM me, like connect with me, and I will help you find the right birth workers in your area.
Mm.
Because the birth workers are the ones who can tell you who their best providers are in your town. If you
Yeah.
have to be in a hospital, they'll say, this is the best hospital, lowest cesarean rate. Here are the best providers. Even if you don't want to birth with midwives, they are the ones that know. The doulas are the ones that know.
Yeah.
Because we want you to be autonomous. We want you to feel connected. We want you to feel safe with or without medication. And it's not about natural birth versus epidural. It's about you as a person feeling whole and healthy and supported, because that's what's going to support your baby and give you more tools for postpartum.
Mm.
Because that's the end game. How do we keep your pelvic floor, your body, your breasts, whatever, good for the rest of your life and
Right.
keep that baby connection going?
Right. You
Because
have
we're
one
raising
body.
humans. We have one body. Yes.
Yeah, and we're raising the next generation. And so I'm so grateful for people like you that do this work. And the amount of free resources alone that you offer people is just staggering. So anyone
It's
watching
about the
this,
babies. It's about the
please,
babies.
please look up Kara. She's just a wealth of knowledge. And thank you so much for your time today. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Get some education. Key. It's key. It's key.
It is key. Yeah, you have the power. So thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Rose.